Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of EX Area. This is actually the second half of this episode of EX Area. Of course, if you're not aware, the first half is over on Different Fights channel, where we cover the JP news for Shadowverse Evolve. And here on this channel, we cover the English news of things. Of course, we're your hosts, the official English edition ambassadors for Shadowverse Evolve. 2 of 3 of them. Different Fight and Ignideus. That's us. Let's do it. Right. I mean, a lot's going on. I will say, like, 2025, crazy year for Shadowverse Evolve. But looking back at 2024, we're also going to take a look at, the events that happened, the meta that occurred, especially after Grand Showdown Singapore and, the BCSs that happened afterwards. But looking forward into the future, we also have, like, a lot of news that happened from the Bushiroad Winter Conference that was, like, literally just, like, last week. We got some talk about Glory Finder Clash events and, of course, Lunar New Year celebrations as well. And then if you weren't aware or you didn't see the first half of the episode, we're also doing the videos we used to do, like meta decks and like how things were adapted from digital. Instead of having separate videos for those, we're sort of consolidating that all into the podcast instead. So we're going to cover how Alter Chaotica was able to adapt Altered Sphere from the digital game into real life. And that's the outline of the episode. Shall we get into it?
Let's go.
Let's do it. So first up, BCS is obviously happening right now. And there's 2024, 2025 side events happening. There's Crosscraft Trials and Glory Finder quests. And you get these mono EPs, which is fun. Crosscraft means you get to mix 2 classes, and Glory Finder is the, obviously, singleton format where you have like a glory card. They recommend this couple decks here for the Crosscraft, but just to get your noggin jogging on what ideas you could do. Yeah. I think for me, the craziest one, obviously, is eventually when you get Spartacus or whatever, you do that with Python and you just win the game. Like, that's something you could do too. But yeah, it's just like a fun meta that, doesn't exist, and you get to play around with some ideas. And you actually get something for your troubles too. Like I said, those mono EPs, People want him. It's like the most popular character in the game for a reason.
I feel like also when we had our last episode was when they announced Crosscraft for the Japanese side. So the English side was very quick to adapt it, I'd say, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, and then, of course, scrolling down, you also get the Glory Finder stuff. And then I think if you click that link, Glory Finder Quest, more information, you get a big size image of the mono EP, so you can take a look at that.
Big, damn. That's
big, dang. Huge. That looks good. It's cute.
Yeah, high res. Zam.
There you go. You also get a promo pack for getting all 5 objectives. So, hey, if you're at a BCS and you scrub out, you can always do this. So there you have it.
These are pretty popular Evolve points. I definitely recommend going for that.
Next up, of course, it's the news from the Bushiroad English Conference Winter, which again happened literally as of time of recording 2 days ago. So we're actually on the button on this one, even though we took a bit of a while since the last episode. This time we're actually topical. That's crazy. Yeah. So, of course, the the second anniversary set for English edition is Gods of the Arcana Set 10. It's an adaptation of Fortune's Hand. We get the tarot inspired cards, the new advanced cards, which are like super powerful, basically win condition cards that you go into your Evolve deck.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. And then as an announcement as well, we get the 14 box topper leaders. And looking at this graphic, it looks like they are the foil leaders too. So
I mean, their names are in gold, which makes me hope for that. And it's like, if Japan is doing scannable leaders as box toppers, then that makes me hope that English can do it too. We don't actually know, but it's also nice because in Japan, what's one thing that's cool is the set name for once is the exact same between English and Japanese. It's literally Gods of the Arcana in both. But in Japanese, it was just the top row, basically. So the top 8 here. But then these ones came out in a few sets that English has not had leaders for.
Yes,
so technically, it's kind of reassuring that at least all the leaders that have not come out in English yet do eventually come out as box toppers. So that is very nice. I think,
and it's like one of those things where, like, extenuating circumstances, we couldn't get the leader cards because of various factors. We won't bring it up here because it's a bit of a touchy thing, but at least we're finally getting them now. So that's good.
Yeah,
Like
so
they're
I
not
think
just
the
like
drop rate
missing
for
from the
these is
English
pretty good,
edition.
too. I guess these
Right,
are
because
the only box toppers, right? So that's actually like if you get a leader in every box, that's pretty insane.
Well, I mean, it does say on the bottom right, each box will have a chance to contain a leader card, so we don't know the rate exactly, but you know, it's something to keep an eye out on, I guess.
Yeah.
And finally, we also have, well, not finally. There's a lot going on in this
Yeah.
conference, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second anniversary cards, we get the serial number, Arcana. So, like, for example, here, the second anniversary Wolf Rod, only 10 in the world. So, similar to last anniversary as well. Basically, similar thing.
So this time they're textless as well.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful and you know, very sought after collector's items. And we also got the sealed format. So from June 20th to July 20th, it's basically Open 8, where you open a set number of packs. It's between 8 to 12 cards, so depending on what location you're at. But yeah, you build a deck based on what packs you open, and then you try and compete on that. So
we've done
pretty
a video
cool.
Trying this out on the official Shadowverse channel.
We have indeed, yeah. If you haven't,
it works.
If you're not subscribed yet, definitely go over to the Shadowverse Evolve English channel, and we do some content on there sometimes, so you can to check that out.
For sure.
Now this is the big one,
which is this was the one that like made it into a whole video for you, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a main Shadowverse digital guy, any Worlds Beyond, and a crumb of news for Worlds Beyond. Yeah, exactly, dude. Like Oliver Twist, please, sir, may I have another? I need to cover it. But it's pretty exciting. So I think it's like going forward in 2025. The reason why I say this year is kind of crazy for not only Shadowverse Evolve, but like the Shadowverse IP in general. It seems like there's going to be a lot more like, you know, synergy, cross promotion between the two. And just like pushing Shadowverse as an IP as a whole further this year. And a big part of that is this collab. It is English edition only, as far as I understand. Because the bonus leader that's in this is also not scannable. But on June 20th, which is the release date of Gods of the Arcana as well, they'll also have a Worlds Beyond starter set for Sword and Dragon that comes with the starter deck, 3 packs, a deck box with a Worlds Beyond leader. We don't know which one. It'll probably be Trajan, if I have to guess, because she's sort of the one that's on everything.
I'd imagine.
A leader card with the Worlds Beyond leader as well. An expansion pack that you use to, like, it's basically just a pack of 16 cards of like upgrades to the starter deck. And then also unspecified bonuses. Now they said that it's just you get an additional purchase bonus, but they haven't said what exactly. Whether it's a bonus for Evolve or for Worlds Beyond is also unclear. It's sort of ambiguous. So that's something that's up in the air and subject to speculation. Like here it says purchase bonus, like to be announced soon. If you're connecting the dots, I kind of imagine it'll be on like March when they said there's going to be Worlds Beyond news. They might, announce
that was
the synergy with
the
Evolve
New
as
Year's
well.
present that the official Shadowverse media gave us was that there's actual Worlds Beyond news in March.
Yeah, it is sort of a dire state of things. the present was an announcement of an announcement, but it is what it is. I think
by the way, so you get your leaders, the Worlds Beyond, and the one inside of it. 10 tokens, 3 Ps, a playmat, rule shaded defense counter, 2 punch out counters, 1 expansion pack of 16 cards, and then 3 Gods of the Arcana packs. The leader cannot be scanned, and the retails for $55 USD. So
whether or not this is like super worth it, obviously it depends on what's in the expansion pack, yet to be revealed. We haven't seen that yet.
Is what we
and also what the purchase bonus is. Is it a purchase bonus for Worlds Beyond or for Evolve? That's also a big question mark. But I mean, I'm happy to get more starter product. I think between the two, without seeing what the expansion pack is and without seeing what the bonus is, I'd probably go for the Dragon one over the Sword one personally.
It has Oracle in it. Like that
it has Oracle. It's also like it's a control ramp deck, which is sort of like a skeleton that you can always sort of like, expand on as new cards come up. Whereas like with Sword, I feel like what archetype in Sword is good changes every time. So
exactly. Like Sword doesn't really have those like generics like Forte that are just like used forever.
Oracle and exactly. Yeah.
So I do agree with that as well. I think if I had to choose between the two, I would also choose Dragon.
Yeah, but again, keep an eye out for this. Obviously, it's interesting to get new starter product, especially since it collaborates with Worlds Beyond. But the big question mark is still what's in the expansion pack, what's the bonus. So if that ever gets revealed, we'll be right on it, and hopefully we'll be as topical as we are with this. So,
yeah, I hope we get more
let's get
information
into
for
it.
it too, because I'm curious if like there'll be more like what other cross promotion stuff they'll do between Evolve and Worlds Beyond. Because like this being English exclusive is also kind of interesting, because even like the Japanese side was also like, oh my god, Beyond information, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool to see more announcements. I mean, whether it's in English or Japanese, like even if the Japanese gets an exclusive thing as well, I'd be totally happy to cover that too, because like
For
it
sure,
just
for sure,
means
for sure.
that Worlds Beyond is coming. It's imminent.
Real.
I'll tell you right now, Chris. I feel like even though it's in terms of actual time between December and January, it hasn't been like that long, but I feel like infinitely better in January than I did in December. I think because it's the same year as the release. Like just knowing it's coming out,
the good timeline.
exactly. Just knowing that it's coming out this year, man, it's got me on a few different energy. Anyway,
That's good. It's only a few months, few more months, hopefully.
I know, right? And hey, who's that handsome
more
devil?
It's me. With,
That's right.
Red Zone Rogue, we will be commentating the last Grand Showdown of this season. So the Grand Showdown in Zomeren in the Netherlands will be happening on March 22nd. So myself and Kel, Red Zone Rogue, will be commentating just like me and Iggy did for the Singapore one. So make sure you mark the date down, whether you're playing or if you're going to be just watching. And there's a little subtitle. There will be announcements for upcoming products and restrictions at the end of the stream.
Now that's very interesting. If you've been following the JP meta, you know that there's a couple of very strong decks coming out set 9, set 10. So if there's some information on how we're gonna wrangle that, that's a big question mark. So definitely tune in. And also, this is the official announcement of the casters, but if you were paying attention, you could kind of put it together, right? Like me and Kel did the American one, and then me and you did the Singaporean one. So it just makes sense. Kel, I'll be tuning in for sure.
Like pictures of each of us 2 at a time. So like surely the last pair will be somewhere.
Exactly.
So, pretty big information for Showdown going into 2025 though. Grand Showdowns will be changed to be simultaneously held across all regions once every quarter. And these will now cost 40 USD, and participants will receive an entry set that includes a storage box, playmat, and promo card. And this will the content of this will change twice a year. This is pretty similar to what Japan does actually for an event type, which is called the Grand Championship. So I can actually put up we in between recording mine and Igny's part, they literally announced a whole new event.
What?
Which is kind of funny.
Okay, let's add it to the
side.
doc. Let's do it.
So they basically announced this, which is the Grand Showdown Spring in Gunma. And so it's like you have the Itsurugi like art for like the playmat and stuff. So this is like these are always like $50 entry. So they're a little bit pricey to enter, but you get quite a lot just for entering. So this time around is like just for entering, you get the sleeves, promo, and then probably a playmat and a storage box of the same art that will be revealed later.
It's Mizuchi and Shenlong. Oh, not Shenlong. What's her name? Sealong.
Sealong, close enough.
Yeah.
And then they also have like exclusive merch. So I don't think we'll necessarily have these in English. I mean, maybe we will. We haven't had that announced, but they always kind of like do this in partnership with like stores in Japan. So they're kind of like, smaller than BCS's, but still like a major event. And so basically, you're basically getting that, essentially going to be getting something similar, I guess, for the Grand Showdowns going into 2025. So going to be a little bit different, but I personally like it. I know on the Vanguard side, we've always kind of been, there's been this like, not really debate, I guess, but like discussion of like, oh, what if Vanguard like charge an entry fee? What could we get for it? And then, maybe Evolve is like a preview that what you can get for an entry fee. And then hopefully it's a big success, honestly.
I mean, I think it is a good news overall. I know, like, for people who aren't super familiar with like offline tournament scenes and stuff, you might be thinking like, why are these guys saying that charging entry is good for the player? But you're already like, if it's an international level event, you're already like traveling and like, booking a hotel and traveling and stuff. And if the $40 entry fee makes the event like, less costly to run for the organizer, that means that they can invest, more into the tournament scene as a whole. I mean, that's looking at this, like, already it's more events, right? Because it's all regions at once every quarter, which is at a much higher frequency than Grand Showdown was this season. So like already we might be seeing the effect of that. So I think it's good news. And as long as the storage box playmat and promo card is like, cool stuff that gives value to the player, then it's like totally worth. And if you're already traveling internationally for this anyway, like 40 USD on top is like, it's just part of the travel fee at that point, in my opinion. So
yeah. That's kind of how things are usually viewed in this, like in relation to that. And plus it's like, if you're getting stuff that's like worth your time, it's like it feels like you're getting more to remember the event by. And I wouldn't say the entry fee is necessarily that crazy either. So again, but this is coming from someone that's been playing in these kind of events for a very long time. And like when you look around at like other companies that run these kind of events, it's pretty common practice, I'd say. So it was kind of like a question of like, when will Bouchard finally give it a try?
Right.
And
because
I'm
generally
pretty happy they're trying it out.
I agree. I think generally events are like typically seen as like marketing for the game for the most part, and like they usually run like a loss, honestly. So like any way to make it like less financially burdenful and like actually be able to maybe produce more of them, it's better for the player, it's better for the game. It's just and you get something in exchange. You're not just like, you're not paying to walk in the door. You get like a bunch of goodies, so it's all good. It's all good in my opinion. Yeah.
All right, and then we have for Worlds, which is happening in May. So this is the supply set that every player that qualifies to Worlds gets. So it's actually
gorgeous,
same as JCS last year, basically the exact same items, just the JCS logo changed for the BCS logo.
It's really nice, beautiful art of the Tetra Mono and Ania hanging out, original art that wasn't in the digital game also. So huge value. So, you get the storage box, the deck box, the sleeves, the mat, and also two types of sleeves: the generic Bushido Championship Series, and also the one with the art on it. And top 8 and top 4 players get the promo Ephemera Sword Angel, and of course the big bonkers one, the Champion 1 of 1 Sisters in Bloom. Just gorgeous, man. Yeah, like this one. They always go out. They always go out for this. Like, I love it. So I'm into it. Before we move on to the Summerfest news, I will say I believe there's also a website for Worlds that went up as well, like a website just for Worlds. And I'll say it right here. It's announced. Chris will be there casting Vanguard, and I will be there casting Shadowverse Evolve with Kel. That's on May 1st and 2nd. So if you're in Japan at that time, or you're playing, come say hi. We'll be there. Let's do it.
Yep, for sure. So I'll be on Vanguard side. I already said this on X, but I will be casting, like, the Vanguard stream will have both standard and premium, just to kind of calm down any assumptions that one or the other format isn't going to be streamed. They're both going to be streamed, and we'll be casting both. And then Igni and Kel will be doing the Shadowverse side. So maybe there's free time in between rounds. Maybe I'll pop in to say hi in between rounds or something.
What, on the Evolve side?
Yeah, and this year,
we did that last time.
So we can do the same thing now.
That's true. Whoa, Twin Drive guest appearance.
Twin Drive appeared at World. That's crazy.
That's awesome. I'm super excited for that, man. I'm so happy to go back to Japan for that, like, and meet everybody. Yeah. So let's do it.
Definitely check out all the stuff about Worlds. There'll be streams, so even if you're not playing or not there physically, it's gonna be a good time. Definitely gonna be a good time. I'm very, very looking forward to it. Then we have the not the Spring Fest, but the Summer Fest. It's been rebranded this year because it's happening from May to September, so it's just in the summer period. So basically, it's going to be the Evolve 1 teams event, actually.
I believe so, yeah. And it's the beautiful Kage Mitsu.
Yeah, this is what I mean by these grand championships. This Kage was a grand championship prize.
Yes, I believe so. I saw it in Japan as well, and now we're finally getting it in English. It's absolutely gorgeous. Outrageously high quality old man. art.
Why does he go so hard?
Why does it look like it's a photograph? I don't understand. It looks so
It's
good.
Like, bro is right there. He's real.
Bro is real, dude. Yeah. So yeah, Bushiroad Summerfest obviously is happening for pretty much every Bushiroad game, and Evolve included. So you get the participation prizes as well, hot stamped like Heartless Battle, Sword Flash Panther, Summoning Drills, Vengeful Radiance, Gift for Bloodkin, and Zelda this day. But the big thing, obviously, is the outrageously high quality old man Kagemitsu looking clean.
The big Kage. So yeah, those were the announcements from the stream that happened the other day. And then we already talked about this stuff. There's the Glory Finder Clash.
So that's a shop tournament thing where you get to play Glory Finder, and you get some prizes for it as well, I believe. So you get a hot stamped Azazel. Yeah. Just a little bit of fun, basically.
Short and sweet. And
finally, the Lunar New Year has shop tourneys. Stay tuned for that. There's not a whole lot of news about that, other than that you get the PR Serpent. Serpent. That's still like to be determined what the details are on that. I know for Vanguard it's that now over trigger.
Oh, yes.
I gotta find a place to play.
I'm not gonna. I don't need to say it, but you know.
Yeah, if you know, if you've seen that art, just look it up, okay?
Yeah, it's like the reaction when that was revealed at the Bushiroad Expo in the Philippines was crazy, dude. The whole venue was just screaming.
And you were there, so you know.
I was there. I was screaming too.
All right. Well, what we want to talk about now is just that's all the news. Now let's talk about the meta for BCS 2024-2025. It's been a pretty fun format. So first of all, let's talk about Grand Showdown Singapore that happened on December 21st, of course, casted by us too. So we were there. But here we have like a full breakdown of the stats here. So taking a look at class distribution, we got 30% Swordcraft. Really not surprising. It's the most represented class in the format. So
like
there you have it.
On stream, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Natural Sword is
or Abyss, basically.
Yes. So Natural Sword is basically BDIF, and second place in the representation is Abysscraft with 18.3%, mostly Machina Abyss, some control as well though. We have Dragoncraft at 15%, mostly people trying out the new Valdane build, and then we have Forestcraft at 13.3, Runecraft at 11.7, Havencraft at 8.3, and then crazy enough, 1.7% playing Uma Musume and 1.7% playing Idolmaster. The Idolmaster I get. Somebody still brought Uma to this, and I'm like, that's horse strongest soldier, honestly.
Yeah. Got too high by the new Uma cards in JP side, just had to play it.
Yeah, seriously. And it was pretty awesome to see. Machina Abyss was, as it says here, this is like sort of a write-up here, where, Machina Abyss was expected, but also Natura Sword was expected. And the winner ended up being Natura Sword indeed. And in fact, it's DJ, who is Daniel Justin, a friend and testing partner of the current world champion, Daniel Yanto, also from Indonesia. Indonesia, one of the strongest regions for Shadowverse Evolve English, I think, clearly far and away. And not only did he qualify for Worlds through this, but I think he also qualified through another. He qualified 3 times in a row. Like, that's
crazy.
3 events back to back, he got qualifying spots for it. The same guy, Daniel.
It's such
Justin,
a rare thing to even hear about this.
He's a generational talent, honestly. I know it's crazy too, because last year he didn't make it to Worlds and he was like super bummed about it, and clearly he freaking locked in. Okay, so he went for it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, nuts.
So that was the second Grand Showdown, basically. And so you get to see this nice little picture of DJ's deck too, but you get to see how this meta evolves as we look through the BCSs that happen as well. So we actually have all the BCSs that have occurred, starting with the ones on November 27th in Myanmar. So you get to see that Rune was the most played one.
I believe this was before?
This was before Machina Natura. So
it's also before the Cursecrafter restriction. So no surprise here that on this tournament, Kuon was king. But then they obviously toned that down going forward. But Control Abyss also very cool. Idolmaster was also a huge new player at the pretty cool. That's why you've tuned into this podcast, surely.
Exactly.
And then we have
Texas.
on the same day, Houston, Texas. That's right. Also, almost 30% Runecraft for that one as well. 0.99% Uma. There's always a horse soldier somewhere.
There's always a horse soldier. It's crazy.
They're the faithfuls, yeah. And I believe the winner of this one was Idolmaster. So big get there.
Again, Control Abyss, and third place was Kuon. So it's the same decks, just rearranged basically.
We actually talked about this. The other day. The other podcast, I should say, the other day, a few months ago, we talked about this, that Abyss is really popular in the States, and actually later on in this podcast, we have a comment sort of explaining why, which is fun.
True.
Anyway.
So yeah, that was the Houston one, and then the last one that happened on this day was the Manila one. Oh, this one is in December 11th, so this is after Machina and Natura came out.
That's right.
So,
and then it was Machina Abyss that took this one, I believe.
Sword 25%. Abyss was actually only 12.5, so it was third most played.
I think people were still on the Kuon thing.
Also,
and
Idolmaster.
Idolmaster was crazy represented, yeah. But I believe it was Machina Abyss that took this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
it was Kanna UMR that won with Machina Abyss. Second place was Ako with Kuon, and then third place was DIP with Natural Sword, and then fourth place was Bize with Natural Sword as well. Some interesting
Natural Sword is a very interesting text. Yeah, I was just gonna say
Kashimoto. Pretty interesting. And then also on the same day, here we have very equal splits here for Mexico. It's like 11 14 14, 11 19 12, 1 14. So very well distributed meta over in Mexico. Winner was Steven with
a 41 card main deck, which I find pretty fun. That's
true, you're right.
I mean, the thing is that the Natural Swords were kind of split into two builds, right? Like the Maisha version and the just like pure Natural stuff version. And the Maisha version is really interesting because you can give it, a huge damage swing with the Maisha spell, but also you can just give it Storm without running, and it's fine.
We saw both builds on the Singapore stream as well, so definitely check out the VOD of that if you want.
Oh, sorry. Was it outrunning to give Bailey on Storm? Is what they usually do, I believe. So.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Yeah.
So cool tactics, and then we had Tiburon with Natural Sword, and then Davizuki with Control Abyss here, actually.
Yeah, Control Abyss is pretty popular.
And Latica finally, Jose's hands 42 card main deck here. So he's playing one Silent Suzuka, which is pretty common just for the extra storm damage. I guess the Ether you don't see too much, so that's like kind of like the more spice in this list as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then the Mexico happened, and then Melbourne happened as well on the December 11th. Here we see a lot less Idolmaster and much more Sword. Again, still pretty split between the main classes though, like 21 Sword, 15 Rune, 15 Dragon, 17 Abyss, 13 Haven, 13 Force. It's like,
honestly not bad.
Really distribute themselves nicely.
Yeah, and Dragon was the winner of this one with a very interesting build. One Shenlong, which not a whole lot of builds do, running the Maisha package as well. So
which I
like it.
Agree with. I think this deck builds up the the cemetery more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. Like the Maisha package is so good in this.
Yeah.
I've seen some interesting techs in Natural Dragon. Some people run like a one-of con flag in case they go up against like super aggro stuff and stuff like that. But generally, it's mostly the same cards between each thing. Like three cooks, like 3 of all the Natural guys.
Yeah,
it's really good. This one does run 3 Verdia Magnus, which some decks go down to 2 these days, but other than that, it's like it's
true.
pretty built. It's like one of 2 of techs that you really change out with this one, but most of it's the same.
Second place was Kuon after restriction, and then the player was Chappers, and then we have Mr. Justin
now a familiar name,
familiar name. He managed to come in third, so get his Worlds qualification with Natural Sword. And in fourth, we had Maru with Machina Haven.
I gotta give props to a Machina Haven going all the way to fourth. Like it's sort of like the outside the meta pick out of all the things. So
yeah, right.
Respect.
Definitely. So those are the decks that did well over in Melbourne. We do have the Sydney one coming up pretty soon too.
True. Then, exciting stuff.
Same day we had Portugal, so lots of BCSs on the same day here.
Yeah.
Or same weekend, I suppose. So distribution wise, we have more Sword here, and Abyss takes.
It's actually
first
more
seed.
Abyss than Sword here. Yeah.
First time, I think.
Yeah.
Still quite a bit of Idolmaster too, so not bad. So looking at the statistics, we have first place Hadou Tensei with the Machina Abyss.
It has some controlling stuff to it as well, which I
yeah,
like.
a little bit. It's a little bit.
The Kawi, the Gensetsus. It's like a kind of weird
pretty
hybrid.
common, I think.
Yeah, true.
For the most part.
But the Kawi is a really interesting tag. So
yeah, so if you need a reminder, it's basically a ward that if you take it out, it takes out one of your things too.
Yeah.
So
and it heals them if you take it out. So it's very good.
Then Portal Top, another familiar name. Managed to do really well with mono here as well. So top 2, both mono. Also quite a different list. So we're seeing the Death's Breath here being played too. And then we have Adam's Sword. So I think this is Scobie, isn't it? This is actually a friend of mine. So
cool.
Managed to come third with Natural Sword. So it's a pretty complex deck, but seeing a lot of success from people in all across all the different regions.
This is the non-Maisha build, one that just runs like generics and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so and then Spec, wow, it's like two people I know. It's like I feel like reading all the names here, I was like, I've heard all these names before, and I know these people at least by name.
Now it's good that the people who are like super dedicated and play the game a lot and putting up results, that's always a good sign.
Yeah. So Spec 41 card with the Maisha and outrunning package that we saw earlier too. So congrats to all of these players as well. Then we had Philadelphia the week after on December 18th. So this is still the same format. I mean, everything is kind of the Natural Machina format here.
Again, the States loves Abysscraft, man. Like it's the first place here as well. Crazy.
Forest does pop up a fair bit, but definitely not in the top tables as much. But Dragon, however, we see the Conflag in here.
We see the one of Oguri Cap as well. I do like that.
By JW. Then we have Senpai Salt's Abyss. This is Machina with the one Kawi again. So we're seeing a bit of a trend here. That's also pretty interesting. And then Gumi's Abyss, also mono. This one's very just clean 3 of virtually everything.
It's the most like standard version of this deck for sure.
And then 4th. Wow, was this? Oh wow, Midwest Chief as well. That's a another familiar name, I think, for a long time.
But this one is Silence.
Yeah.
Just trying to annoy people at the table as much as possible. Respect. I mean, it's a fun deck for sure. Like, you discard your hand. Not my problem.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually running the Viridia Magna as because this list can only make trees through the neutrals. So it's
colorful
very rare to
token.
see neutral stuff being played in Abyss because technically Natural Abyss doesn't exist in Evolve.
Yeah, it's a really interesting build. Like they're kind of defying what the box sort of laid out for you to go your own way, and I kind of respect that.
So what? All of top 4 was Dragon won, but the rest of top 4 was all Abyss. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
That's very Dragon protagonist stuff.
Then we had Malaysia. This was the same weekend as Grand Showdown, I want to say.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
So the split here, we have Abyss, Dragon. Okay, Abyss just a bit more than Sword, and then Dragon.
Yeah, it's very close, though.
So we had Kaiser with Machina. Pretty standard list, I would say.
Yep, so Machina
BZ
1.
We're seeing again here with the Natural Sword. Again, it's the outrunning plus Maisha build.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Moira.
Hey, shout outs Moira.
Yep. With the mono, the Machina Abysscraft. And finally, Adrian Tan with the Leonidas tech, Fall from Grace.
What the heck is this list?
Natural Sword.
That's really cool, yeah.
It's a bit of like top end / like counterplay, I guess. So Fall from Grace being played for, just that removal, I guess. Just have the extra removal options. So pretty cool. All right. So that was the Malaysia one. And then finally, Singapore happened the week after the Grand Showdown. Was the BCS.
Oh, this is it. Yeah, DJ won this one too. That's what I was talking about.
DJ with a back-to-back. Actually crazy. Wins especially. It's like, these are He
He's
got
too
himself
crazy,
like
dude.
the paid trip as well.
Yeah.
I
He's
think
literally
it was
just
actually more
gatekeeping,
popular.
dude. Like, he's just like, nah, I'm gonna be first in every event. Like everybody's
Crazy.
fighting for second place if DJ is entering the event. Like it's actually crazy.
Managed to trim down the deck to 40 cards with the engine of my Shan outrunning too. So definitely huge. Definitely huge.
Yeah.
Ooh, YC with the Machina.
Second place Machina Haven with a
Yeah.
very controlling version too. A 3 of Father of Refinement, 1 Dark John. It's very interesting.
Yeah, right.
And some lists you see running like Amethyst Lion for more aggro, like after they res their 2-drops, like their Robo Falcon, for example. But no, this one is like going a little bit more late game. Which is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
pretty cool to see though. I mean, really just going through and seeing like the Haven tops was pretty surprising. And then we have Shinto Senpai, another familiar name from the community, with actually
Roach Forest.
Yeah,
it's fairy. It's
slash
fairy
Roach
forest.
Amataz Forest, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, very
So-
cool. Got the new. They got this new Cynthia. Got Anastasia. Got Spinaria.
Yeah.
Defying the meta here. 3rd place with fairy. I
Where's
dig
Latika?
it.
And Ramen with Mono Abyss as well. So really feels
Pretty
like Mono
standard
has been doing better after the Grand Showdown ended.
Weird, right? I think it's
Yeah.
like people are like, I don't know. DJ is always winning with sword though, so
Yeah.
I follow my goat, dude. Whatever
True.
DJ plays, I'm like, that's the one.
Got such a good like season. Feels like has to have a deep run at Worlds too, as long as the meta favors them.
I hope so. Unless he like cast or let's not cast or curse him.
Yeah,
A
it's
few
really
months
bad.
before Worlds happens.
And then we had our 2 first events of the year in
Mhm.
Madrid as well as in Vancouver. So Madrid, we had 20% Sword, 18% Abyss, 16% tie on Forest.
It's
as
starting to
well
get a
as
little more what's the word? Gosh, it's starting to get a little more polarized. That's the word.
polarized. Yeah.
But you can see it's like a little less even, and
Yeah.
like Sword and Abyss are
And
coming
the
out
meta's
to the
starting
top
to kind
here.
of like shift towards like the stable decks that have been winning a lot.
Right.
So we do see the 1 Death's Breath, 1 Kawi version from
Yeah.
Portal Top. We just saw Portal Top.
This guy is
3rd, I
topping a
think,
lot.
in Portugal.
God,
So
yeah, he's going crazy.
got the win here. So yeah, Evolve really is like the game where if you're good at Evolve, you're good at Evolve. Like you're gonna get
Yeah.
those tops consistently.
Yeah.
So definitely good to see. Wolfie Dono with Kuon. Very teched out Kuon list. Lots of 1-ofs here.
Yeah. I mean, because it's a toolbox because you can get anything with Merlin, I guess.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, whatever.
It's just like the rarities too. You can kind of see. And then in 3rd we have Mr. Dr. Bepis TM.
That's a pretty funny name, yeah.
Dude, this is my friend who, so back when Buddy Fight was around, we commentated the last ever Buddy Fight tournament
Whoa.
together with him and another friend of mine. This was like official stream as well. And right before right, I think I've told you the story before, but right before the broadcast started, it was like silence. It was like 4 a.m. in the morning for
You
us.
have told me this before.
And he's just like, all right, guys, I just got to get it out of my system. He just goes, Among Us. Okay, I'm good.
And now we carry on.
Every
We
time
carry that
record
tradition.
EX area, me and Igni have the same thing where every time there's some like stupid meme in our heads that does
Brain
not
rot
escape.
meme.
Don't say the one that's been in our heads this week.
I'm really close to saying it. I just want to say it.
It's over for us the moment it hits. So yeah, so shout
Anyway,
outs to Dr. Bepis.
that's cool. I love hearing about the ancient history. We love that.
Yeah. So you'll see him at Worlds. He got 3rd, got his qualification.
Let's go.
And then Daimon in 4th with the all reliable Nitro Sword with Chivalrous Char. Oh, this is Cyclone Blade. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
some
80
lists do
M.
run like a 1-of or a 2-of Cyclone. Mostly a 1-of Cyclone Blade. But this
Yeah.
guy runs 2, which is crazy.
Gemstone
I don't know. It's just
as well.
like it's just board clear, really. So
Yep. And finally, we have the Vancouver one. Pretty much tie on Abyss and Sword as like the
Yeah,
2
pretty
most
much.
common archetypes or classes rather. Haven quite a bit. Idolmaster
Rune
quite a bit.
fell off a cliff for this event. Holy
Really
moly!
did. Really did. So KGZN managed to win it with the Machina Abyss. Again, pretty standardized list by now. And then we have Min with the Nitro Dragon Didn't see too many tops from
this
Dragon,
list.
but actually, finally managing to
This
see
is
them
a
here.
this is a great list. I've been thinking that everybody should be running Dracomancer's rights. Like, I think it's crazy that people don't
Right.
run that.
Right. Also, shout
Yeah.
outs to the Grand Showdown Blazing Breaths.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Good
Very,
stuff.
very cool.
And also,
I'm gonna net that list specifically. I was like trying to make room for my Dracos. I'm like, I can't find a good ratio, and this guy
There
just
you
came
go.
up and put it in my lap. So let's go.
Yep. Then ASD AZS again with the one of Cyclone Blade and also Armor of the Stars here. For
Armor of the Stars is really cool. It prevents like last day. What's it called? The Abyss Idolmaster spell. So you can like
Whisper,
put it on one of.
it wasn't in here, but sure.
You can put it on one. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Whispers of a Dream.
You can put it on like your Stormer, and then like just prevent damage or destruction going to your Stormer, and then you're like you're good with that. So you're happy about that.
Protect your Mistalina basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty good. And then finally in fourth, Neon with the good old mono with a couple Cerberuses in there as well.
Is Kerberos doing in here? That's a little
right.
surprising.
I feel like I saw it at some point, but then it like disappeared, and then now it's kind of back. I guess it's just good for taking care of like small threats, but it's only like for early game, like fighting early game boards, I guess. It's like all I can really see it for. And I guess it helps to buff, like if you really need like the +2 attack on your like mono for the last bit of lethal or something, maybe.
It's a little sneaky, right? Like suddenly your mono can overextend, or like extend into lethal, which is kind of cool.
Like, I don't know how much time you have to commit to the Cerberus in a turn, but because usually you're trying to just like keep Machina
Mono
stuff on board as much as possible.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can find the timing to delay your opponent and set up a higher ceiling, then it does work out. So yeah, that has been all the BCSs that have happened thus far. There are more, of course, still happening. BCS lasts until March, so there's still loads more across the entire world. And
yeah, you can check out the Bushy Road Events Twitter for any announcements on that. So
yep, also the official website
out.
too. So
and the website, obviously. Yeah.
So yeah,
very cool. I think in general the meta is like very clearly crystallized into like 2-3 top decks, 4 probably. It's like in ascending order. It from worst to best. It's like Kuon, Dragon, Abyss, then Sword. I feel like is the sort of general story here. Oh, Abyss and Sword would be tied for first.
Yeah, it's kind of like always flip flopping. Which one is more represented, right?
Yeah. That's the season this time around. I think Natura Sword also is good into next set as well. So if you have that, you can keep it. Abyss does really change it up next set though, so you gotta stay on top of things.
And it's like the good thing is that a lot of the decks from like Machina and Nitro are such popular archetypes that get support over and over again that it's like, if you play the app, well, one thing if you look at Japanese Evolve, it's going to get support in a year after, or like, I guess, fall, would be the normal schedule.
Yeah, something like that. But then, like basically a year,
And then that there's, in the app version, there was like Heroes of Shadowverse, and then surely Worlds Beyond will remake Nitro and Machina too. So I feel like if
there's
you like
no shot at
Machina decks, you can expect them to get support every so often.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shot Worlds Beyond doesn't dip into the old favorites. We already saw Aragavi in the trailer, so like,
yeah, right.
Things are happening. Yeah.
No doubt there for sure.
All right, well, that's the news and the events. Now let's head into the topic, which is the video we would have otherwise done separately. We're sort of consolidating here now. I want to discuss a little bit about how Alter Chaotica was able to adapt Alter Sphere from the digital game into the physical game, like the concessions that had to be made, the flavor decisions that had to be made. Let's talk about it. So we bring up the card list here. So Pascal obviously is a Runecrafts card usually, and it's made into a forest card in Evolve. And the it's funny because the app version is incredibly different, and I would say that the Evolve version is more like an analog to the Rune version of Pascal rather than a translation of the app version. So in the app, Pascal doubles all your board stats if you've played 4 cards, which is like completely different than what it does here, where it just +2/+2 your board heal 4 and you top deck an enemy follower. So this effect in the app was extremely difficult to get off because it's a 6-cost card and you have to play 4 other cards. And back then there weren't as many like Wisp generators either. Yeah. So It was very much a meme deck, honestly. And it doesn't even double its own stats. So it's like really sad.
Yeah, only your other allied followers.
Yeah, so like they didn't want to print a card that was like a legendary card that was just like useless. So they pretty much reworked it from the ground up.
They gave her
basically.
ward as well.
Yeah, they gave her ward too. It made her like much more universally applicable. It's just a unconditional board buff, heal, and removal. So it's like kinda also mirrors the rune version insofar as the rune version can buff your board or deal with the enemy board. This is just like an expensive version that does both. So that's kind of how they translated the Pascal here.
And gave her
I don't know. Do you
removal
think
too? So good.
do you think they could have made her a combo card and sort of like preserve the digital identity, or it's totally fine? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess they could have maybe like added like maybe like another buff if you've played 4 cards this turn or something, but
right.
I feel like it's also fine because like if you're making her 7 play points, it's pretty hard to get 4 other cards played that turn, right?
That's the thing.
Even when she was 6 in the app, that was already hard. So I think having her just be like her own body is also fine. Like in exchange of having 4 cards played, she has ward, buff, heal, and removal. So she has 4 traits to herself.
Whoa, so true.
So it's perfect. As
I will say it's like over the course of doing these sort of like covering how things were adapted over the past few sets, definitely some of them are like 1-to-1, and some of the other ones you can see that the designers were like, we can't do this. Like we just have to make it completely different, which is fair because obviously
this product.
Well, not only that, but some of the things are like untranslatable. Like
yeah, that too.
Like Alter Plane Arbiter in digital gave you 2 basic cards of the opponent's. How are you gonna do that in real life? Right. Like that's not happening. So
not happening.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Yep. While Pascal was very different, the Sword one kind of faithful to the digital version insofar as it's a draw tool. So in digital, it's a cost tutor. You draw the card of you draw a card that's equal to the cost of your maximum play points plus 1. So it's basically like a curve filler to like let you or like tutor into your important pieces. Whereas in Evolve, you just tutor any knight, I believe, and then if you have 7, is it sword followers in the cemetery, you buff your board, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So the Evolve one is it fanfare searches, and then for end phase, it says if you have 7 or more sword followers in your cemetery, it gives all of your followers +1/+1. So.
Which is interesting. It's like a better version of Aether's Evolve skill in the digital game, which just gives +1 defense. So
yeah, to all other allied followers. The Evolve one actually does buff herself.
Generally, Evolve cards tend to be like, well, maybe this won't be true once we start adapting Heroes of Shadowverse or whatever. But generally, the Evolve translations tend to be a little bit more buffed up because the stat lines in Evolve tend to push the limit too. Like, for example, a Goblin in Shadowverse Digital is a 1/2, whereas a Goblin in Shadowverse Evolve is a 2/2. So like, they kind of have to push the effect a little bit when they translate it. But otherwise, Aether is pretty faithful, honestly. So
yeah. I think she's like almost like a 1-to-1.
We talked about this in your side of the episode, but one of the most important cards in this set in Alter Chaotica is the Medusa, Sweet Tooth Medusa. And she's so different than she is in the app version. I don't know if you remember the app version. She wasn't even good. Basically, what you did was you spell boosted her, and the amount of times you spell boosted her, you summoned a bunch of serpents. And if you spell boost her enough, you summon Medusiana, which is just a big serpent.
Yeah, so fanfare summon a serpent, spell boost summon 1 more. If you mean spell boost 7 times, summon a Medusiana. And then
I just remember the effect.
This thing.
I literally just memorized the effects. It's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
It's all up here.
So Medusiana was a 4-cost 1/7 with Rush Bane and attack 3 times. Right, this was like the board clear kind of.
It's literally you do so much work to get a 1 attack guy. It felt bad.
Yeah.
So they really pushed
in Evolve. She's like fanfare search for any 2-cost or lower card add to hand.
Right.
Every time you remove something, summon a serpent. Like, okay. And then you evolve her and she's like, no, choose 2 enemy followers, distribute 5 damage. And also you can remove 2 serpents as a quick on both players' turns to make the next card you play cost 2 less. Like,
it's really strong.
This is just comedy at this point in terms of like how buff she got.
Yeah, it's a complete rework. They're just like, instead of having Medusiana, which is a token that's bad, how about we just make her reduce the cost of cards in your hand that are good? It's like, yeah, that works. Now it's one of the best cards in the set. So
it's like just her stats took a slight debuff. Like she went from being a 5/5 to a 4/5 on Evolve, but like that's fine.
It's fine. It does so much more now, especially because the Evolve also just has like a great removal effect. So you get 3 Serpents off that right away, essentially, if you just like take out 2 with the Evolve effect and then like trade this into another one. It's like so strong. So
there
you go. I do like the fact that they just kept the flavor of like summoning a bunch of snakes, but
yeah. I agree.
The fact that you can sack your snakes to do something is more rune flavored. So I do appreciate the change they made for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
So that was
okay.
Medusa. And then
my goat, Otohime. So this is also basically the same. In the digital version, they had an accelerate effect, and we don't really have accelerate effects in Shadowverse Evolve. So
kind of,
like, but it's not like
Rune,
a keyword.
Right? We had we have this one that's like you can discard this to draw one kind of thing.
Yeah, and Yuzuki and Abyss is also kind of has an accelerate as well. Yeah. But it's not exactly the same. And in this case, they just made her way cheaper rather than giving her an accelerate, which sort of like, evens the difference out between like having a brick and a non-brick. They just make her cheaper. And then instead of summoning your entire board, you summon what's it?
Summon one on Fanfare or 3
on Fanfare and
Overflow.
That's right, 3 on Overflow. And they also made it so that if a dragon follower leaves play, you ping 1, I believe.
Yeah,
so
either your opponent's leader or your opponent's follower.
So it's really good in conjunction with Prime Dragon Keeper is sort of the combo you do with Otohime. Of course, Prime Dragon Keeper has the misfortune of having to have a target. Otohime, you can kind of just play it and go like, okay, if my PDK doesn't hit, at least I can just get pings off when these get removed. So it's pretty interesting. I wouldn't say it's like a super powerful card in Dragon, but it's fun in like an aggro deck, just as like a mid-game filler card, and it has synergies in the deck as well. So
for sure,
it also just leads you into Azi Dahaka. It's just like you ping them off a little bit, and then Azi Dahaka does a big finish, and it's all good from there. So pretty cool.
They work in conjunction in this very set.
That's right.
And then we have
and I believe the Rush followers are also slightly bigger in Evolve than they were in the digital
they're 2/1s.
Yes,
they're
two
2/1s. 1 drops here.
Are they also 2/1s? Yeah, they're exactly the same. Never mind.
They're 2 drops, I guess, technically in app.
Yeah, right. But it's just cool, like
in the app.
In the app, they can evolve, and also it's just cool, like how Otohime, her tokens are ward in Sword, and then in Dragon it's like a more aggressive version. So
yeah, it is nice.
Okay.
Then we have Abyss with
this one is like one of the biggest changes. Like Rose Queen in the digital game had an effect that I think is probably untranslatable it's not untranslatable, but it's very interesting, where every blood card in your hand that costs 2 or less becomes a Crimson Burst, which is a new token as well that they chose not to adapt into Evolve. So in Evolve, they just made it so she gives you a Thorn Burst, but a Crimson Burst is a Thorn Burst that also heals you. Which is interesting. But you basically get rid of your entire hand to make these token spells that you just ping off later. And it was really difficult to make work because she's an 8 cost, so you're at latest killing by 9. And it's also awkward because at 9 you can only cast 4 Thorn Bursts, or Crimson Bursts rather, because they cost 2. So that's 12 damage, which is like not enough.
And she didn't restore play points on Evolve.
She didn't, So it's a turn 8, like do nothing, for a turn 9 not killing them. So it's like, ooh, boy.
She's like, okay, I'll give you the Thorn on Fanfare, but then it's like you do Evolve for 2, so it's still 8 in total. But the difference is that she then recovers you play points equal to how many 2-cost cards are in your hand.
That's right. And instead of giving you a spell that can either target, like the Crimson Burst heals you, but you have to target either the enemy face or 1 follower. Instead, this Rose Queen can target all followers and heal you, or the enemy face, which is a much better deal, like efficiency wise. It's just like really good. So
it still feels similar, but it's very different.
It's got a similar vibe because the other one also required you to have cards that were 2 cost or less, but instead of like replacing them with a token, this time it's just like it just benefits you from having these 2-cost cards. And it's generally, I feel like, better design space personally, in my opinion, because now whenever a 2-cost Abyss card comes out, you're like always thinking back to Rose Queen and if you can play her with it. So
yeah,
it's a cool one. I like it. I would say generally most of these got better from the app version. For sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right,
Haven is the one where it's kind of up in the air whether it's better or not. Holy Lord Ector. So of course in the app he's a +2 and rush to all other followers till end of turn. And then if you have 9 shadows, you get 2 of the Cavaliers and also give them rush and attack. Whereas I think he's actually more interesting in Evolve. Like in the app, he's like basically a 1-to-1 analog of the
original,
of the Shadow version, of the original version. Whereas in this one, you replay,
and then he gives rush to all of your Haven followers.
So that's very similar.
Yeah, and then he chooses 2 cost 2 or lower Haven followers from your cemetery and plays them, and then he lets you banish 3 Haven followers from your cemetery to buff all of your other followers by +1/+1, which is a once per turn.
Yeah, it's pretty cool in that it's sort of in the way the digital Ector was an analog to the digital Shadow Ector. This one is more reminiscent of the Evolve Abyss Ector because you're rezzing something from your drop. But I also think it just gives you more deck building opportunities rather than introducing yet another type of token. You instead get to res your cool stuff like your Robo Falcon or your other Stormers and make a benefit that way.
Too, they didn't like force in the Holy Cavaliers for like no reason or anything.
Right. Which is obviously like a logistical consideration you have to consider when you're making a physical product. In digital, you can make as many tokens as you want, but in physical, you're gonna have to print those. So it's one of those things. But I would say generally, like all of these were pretty much all buffed from digital. Yeah, all of them were given a significant boost from digital. Because I'm not gonna lie, when Alter Sphere came out in digital, the best stuff wasn't even the altered cards. It was like, Prince of Cocytus. and stuff like that. So, if you're gonna theme a whole set around it, it's better to give the mascots a little boost, I guess, for the Evolve release. So I agree with it. So there you go.
So it was definitely a nice set. It also like introduced some stuff that wasn't in this set in app, like Nephthys and then like Ouroboros, I guess, were like much older in the app.
That's
when
right.
They came out, right?
Yeah. Ouroboros was like Tempest of the Gods. It was like very early
like
on.
Ancient.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting how they like choose to pick up old cards every so often.
Mm-hmm. I think it's sort of I kind of think of Evolve as kind of like the greatest hits, where they just print like usually the cards that are the most memorable or the fan favorite ones. For the most part. And
for sure.
I dig it. It's cool to have it in your hand. So there you go. That's how it was adapted. I think if you were a digital player and you go into Evolve with this set, the cards that were adapted definitely have the same sort of vibe, but just boosted to a way that they're actually like good. So I think you'll be happy with it, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And then this set is pretty close now as well at the time of recording this. It's basically just a couple weeks away, February 7th. So I think it's just about. Might be even less than 2 weeks now at the time of this.
Yeah, it's less than 2 weeks. I'm very excited. There's a lot going on in both Evolve and, it's not the purview of this podcast, but both Evolve and Vanguard. There's a lot going on at the end of January, early February, so I'm kind of excited. So I'm a happy guy.
For sure. So,
all right. Well,
upcoming products. We have April, of course, Duet of Dawn and Dusk, and then, of course, Gods of the Arcana that was announced recently in June 20th. And
did you say Duet of Dawn and Dusk?
Gods of the Arcana isn't announced yet, but
we know.
It's a big one.
Did you say Duet of Dawn and Dusk?
Duet, bro. Whatever.
It's Duet. What are you saying?
Duet, potato, bro. It's fine.
Nobody says that.
One quick thing before we end. I forgot.
Yeah, sure.
There's playmats coming out on February 7th. So there's the Bushi.
There's a lot happening on February 7th. What the heck? Everything's happening that day.
And Rose Queen are both getting really nice playmats. It's really cool because these two just had like the kind of like typical Evolve color on the sides, but these ones have like the custom, like the rose petals. And then
beautiful.
For the set after that in April, we're getting a Jean and Vanya.
That's an alternate Jean art too. Dang. It's
yeah,
like not even the one on the card. Yeah, it's very cool.
So definitely like, especially with the borders they've been cooking. I like it a lot.
You sprung this on me. I didn't even know this was happening. I'm surprised. This is cool.
I was like, am I forgetting any merch? And I clicked on others. I was like, oh yeah, right. There's this. This was exciting really nice, bro. The Jean one.
That's what I'm saying. The Jean one is the one I'm gonna get probably out of all of them. Very
Good
cool.
job.
Very cool.
Good job, Bushy Supplies.
They've been cooking Bushy Supplies. That's a recent like endeavor of theirs as well, right? Bushy Supplies.
Yeah.
Like just last year they started it. So
yeah. Literally, like, just a few months ago, they started it, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, very exciting. So everyone is always saying, it's like, oh, I want to have official supplies. I want like more official stuff that isn't just like, case toppers or like tournament exclusive stuff. It's like, well, there you go. Now you can just buy the playmat.
Yeah, and they're not even a bad price either, so go for it.
Yeah, I mean, just typical playmat price, basically.
Go watch Chris's episode. JP News is English news just a year in advance, so eventually it'll be relevant. So you should watch Chris's half of the episode as well. And before we end, we have the comment corner. We got a comment from the last video. We asked on our last episode, why is Abyss so popular in the States? Well, apparently, one of the reasons, this is from Adam Atta64. One of the reasons people like Abyss in the States is that it has a strategy similar to an average deck of a different card game. You make plays with your graveyard a lot. Any deck that makes use of the graveyard, or the cemetery in this case, as another resource area like Disdain Dragon or Rune with like Merlin or Kuon, very much favored by players here. SVE has done a good job in maintaining a nice balance and where resources are maintained between the classes. So that's also like a thing that's kind of consistent like throughout, like even now in Japan I believe you still do like a lot of cemetery recursion, so I guess you know it's just nice to have that as it's very different to the digital app too, because in the digital app we didn't really have a graveyard, right? We had
a skull emoji with a number next to it.
Instead of a graveyard, you had a list of cards that left play because that was what was relevant. Okay, like if you had one guy that died and you had a card that says res that guy, even if you only had one of those guys died, you could res it as many times as you want. Like as long as it was like in
this pool of names that you can draw from, basically.
Whereas in this case you have to be more aware of all the zones that exist, because you're limited to the confines of physical reality. You don't have non-Euclidean playmats yet, so you just have to have you have to have cards that actually move around. So it's very cool, and I'm glad that people are finding aspects they like in other games in Shadowverse Evolve. It's cool. Hopefully we attract more players that way. So there you go. Epic. All right, guys, before I end the episode, I do want to say also, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all of that. So if you want to review us there, that would be very helpful as well. Other than that, if you're already on the platform that reviews us, you can I'm sure there's an option you can just do it. takes 2 seconds. Click the button. Other than that, thank you for listening. Appreciate you. And we'll see you next episode. We're probably going to record mid-February-ish, so not too long from now. So we just took a little bit of a break over the holiday season, but we're back into the swing of things. So look forward to that, especially because this year, lots happening for Shadowverse Evolve and Shadowverse as a whole in general. So
that's right.
Let's go. All right. But other than that, thank you for listening once again, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.